Hello and welcome to the Tavern Chat podcast. I'm your host, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR, your main proprietor at the Tenkar's Tavern blog. This is another in the series of designers and makers interviews, fireside chat, whatever the fuck you want to call them. And this time, I have with me none other than Vince Florio, the man who brought me initially into podcasting itself. Vince, welcome.
Hey, you need to loosen up a little on that intro, bro, man. You're just really stiff.
I know, and it's the same fucking one I've done now for like 235 fucking episodes. It's like
It's like when I joked on Old School Blues. Eric doesn't have to be there with the intro. I could just put like a fake bumper and hey, folks, just every time.
it. Can you make it sound a little bit different? Maybe.
No, I didn't say Guilford Godfrey for just
No. Okay. All right. Of course. See the one thing we lack with this over the video is my cat's ass walking by.
Oh God, no! I don't need to see that. Thank you very much.
Oh, you have seen it. Don't tell me you haven't, man.
I don't need to see it again. Is what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Well, none of us do. But hey. All right. So Vince, what we are going to do is we're going to start off with the same 5 questions I pretty much ask everybody when they come on, and then we will proceed with the hex crawl and see where it takes us. Shall we do it? All righty. Tell us about your first RPG experience.
Well, let's see here. It was way back in the day, probably the early 80s. I was like 8, 9, or 10. I can't remember exactly what age. I was going to a summer camp like we all did back in those days because we didn't have many things to do back then.
Couldn't sit the kid on the the Xbox and have them play games all day and keep out of trouble.
Yeah, and having like an Atari back then was like, you had to be like the rich family to have an Atari. So,
and if you had an Atari, it meant all your friends were coming over the house, and therefore you were not going to be home during the summertime because your mother was not going to feed all those kids.
No, but I was the kid that had Coleco.
Dude, I had the Coleco Atom. Okay, so I had the early computer in my upper teens.
Oh, I had the Coleco entertainment system without the Atom. So.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, I was going to the summer program, and I was pretty much just being a camp counselor there, and we played games during the day. It was one of those things that you did during the day, like your parents dropped you off and get you the F out of the house, so because they had to work in the summer, so I did that. Right. And there was then there was this guy, as I quote on my podcast, the great Joe DM, who was actually working at the park. He was working under a student. Back then, you were able to work at like 14, 15 and with like, I think it was called green papers back then. I have no idea.
Working papers. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a New York thing, I think, but it was back then. He was really young too. And he was working in the park. He worked on the, a couple days here for a couple hours. So in between when he was working, he would, he'd be sitting there reading these gaming books. And I was just like, ooh. So I happened to, when there was nothing to do and there was a lull, I went over and started asking him a bunch of questions. And then he started pulling the books out. And he's like, this is this and this is that. And we started playing the original Red Box D&D. And every day I'd be dropped off at the park. And the first thing I would do instead of going to the camp thing was, I would check in first. But then as soon as it was like a free moment, I'd go find Joe and be like, can we play D&D? And he'd be like, yeah, as soon as I'm doing this over here. And like, he was like being paid to play D&D at one point because they couldn't find him because we would always go run hide to play D&D. And then eventually I got my buddy who used to go to the camp. He got him involved. So we was me, him, and Joe. And then another one of my buddies saw we were doing this. So he joined. So we kind of like formed our own group one by one, like little lemmings walking in there to play D&D. So
you've been assimilated.
Then we started playing Star Wars too, if I remember correctly. D6 WEG Star Wars a little bit later on.
So, okay.
Yeah. And then we got into first edition D&D, and that's when I found my stride and my love for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons first edition, and that's when I found that Joe was a dick. And that's how I learned how to be a dick DM too. So.
Oh, okay. So he's a dick DM, not just a dick in general.
No. He was a dick DM. Sorry, I should.
Okay. No, I was just it's like, oh, that's rough. Well, see, that leads right into our second question. What is your go-to RPG system and why?
Oh, it's always 1E, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition. I always fall back to that whenever I'm running something because it's the only game that I know inside and out enough to run it without ever having the books next to me, and I can, just wham up a story, and people at my table enjoy it, so they keep coming back. So it must mean something.
Do you get rid of things like weapon speed and
Oh, no,
segments?
play with that crap. Yeah, weapon
Okay.
speed and what was that other thing that everyone couldn't stand?
There was was it the weapon versus AC adjustment chart?
Oh yeah, that is just a waste of time. I'm sorry. Those out there that like that, awesome. Enjoy it. I just hate that. No, it's just not my cup of tea. Nope.
Fair enough. That's what we did. I started with AD&D, and we didn't understand weapon speed for shit. The whole if your initiative is tied, then the weapon speed can indicate that a dagger can strike 3 times before the two-handed sword in the same round, but only when you roll a tied initiative. I was like, what?
I understood it. I just thought it was like a waste of time, in my opinion. Why? What's the point? And Joe would never
Needless
play with it. So
complication. Yes, that was.
meh,
But
meh.
yeah, I got you. All right, so now this should be interesting since you're a 1E guy like me. Race as class, yay or nay?
Um, no, I don't. I like the separation, to be honest, and that's why I've done it in all my games, and including if you saw Mazes and Pearls in the original, and then the second, the deluxe, they were always class and race, separate things. So
Fair enough. Where do you stand on Save or Die? And I guess I should mention we're not talking the podcast that comes out underneath
well,
Wild Games Productions.
the podcast itself is pretty good. I mean, the new
Yes.
hosts are better than the second edition host that we had. Oh wait, that was you. Never mind.
Yes.
No, yeah, Save or Die is great. I love Crispy and Carl. Carl's an awesome guy. Crispy is he's pretty good too when he's not making people vomit, according to the emails that I get. So, but yeah, Save or Die, totally, dude. That's a rule. It's a thing, and it happens more often than you think.
Oh, I know that. I've seen it.
Mm.
I felt it. All right. What would the teenage you think if they could see what you would accomplish in a hobby by this point in your life?
The teenage me, I don't know. You'd probably be like, dude. That's all you would probably say. You'd be like, dude. And then he'd be like, wait, you're hanging out with Tankar? Oh, man.
Well, yeah,
really
but
fallen.
I mean, you've accomplished a hell of a lot. Not just Mazes and Pearls, which was an Emmy award-winning product in its initial incarnation. But how many podcasts have you been involved with? How many podcasts do you currently have underneath the Wild Game Productions banner?
Well, I mean, if I go by the pissed off Tankar, too fucking many.
I never said too fucking many podcasts. There's too many podcasts for me to keep up with in general.
Too fucking many is what I think you said at one point, and I should be a little more focused. And
well, no, I might, okay, for saying that, I might have said that, but but seriously, how many?
Right now, we have Roll for Initiative, Save or Die, Thaco's Hammer, the Classic Face Rip podcast, and whenever we feel like doing Old School Blues.
Well, you might hear a call for that after this episode goes up. Who knows?
Maybe. Who knows? Yeah, right. I mean, we have to make sure Glenn's available too, because he got all upset that one time we did a show without him.
How could you do a show without me? What, Glenn? How could you without me? It's like Glenn.
Well, Glenn.
You're dropping out again, Glenn.
Yeah, that's always the thing. Glenn, are you there, Glenn? Anyway.
So, all right. So, like I alluded to earlier, Vince, you're the reason why I even podcast in the first place.
I am? Oh, okay.
Yes, you are. Well, my first introduction to podcasts was you snagging me at North Texas to sit down at the table when you and Glenn were recording live.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And I was like, well, this is pretty cool.
I remember we had a phone call way back in the day of how to do podcasting. You were asking me a bunch of questions.
Yes.
Is that around the same time frame? I don't even remember.
It probably was. It probably was. I don't know if you were still in Pennsylvania at the time, or if I caught, or then you were probably in Texas at that point.
No, I was in Texas at that point. It wasn't that
Okay,
far ago. Yeah.
okay, but
I think
yeah.
when I was in Pennsylvania is when we had our little war together.
Oh shit. Okay, just so folks know what Vince and I are talking about. Mazes and Perils. Vince and at least I threw the initial salvo because I was a bit of, believe it or not, I was more of a dick when I was first
No.
getting into blogging than I was now. I think
No. Not
no,
you.
not me. Listen, it has actually turned into a number of good friendships. It's turned into one or two really good frenemies.
Mm,
I guess we could call people like Gareth and
mm,
uh, Ken Whitman and She Who Shall Not Be Named. Uh,
mm,
you
mm.
know, yeah, but that was. I certainly was a bit more of a let me stick my hand in the hornet's nest and cause shit uh, personality back then. But
Mm.
um, in the end, once we got past the stubborn New Yorkness on both sides.
There was none on my side. What are you talking about? It was all you.
Yeah, well, it was. Listen, Glenn, if you're listening to this, I thank you. So Glenn was like the peacemaker, I guess you could say. Here, smoke the peace pipe, Kimosabi.
No, I wasn't aware of that, but okay. Thank you, Glenn.
Well, Glenn says he is.
Okay. Glenn claiming credit. Okay, cool.
Yeah, well, dude, I'm just. But in any case, um, so yeah, that was back with Mazes and Perils. I guess now it's what, first print or first edition that you refer to it as.
It's just amazing. Probably Mazes and Pearls Basic at this point. We're going to refer to it as.
All right, so now we have Mazes and Perils Basic, which I get.
Yep.
One in any,
Mm-hmm.
which is no small thing to achieve.
No, amazing.
And
I
then
was really surprised.
yeah, I was like, damn. And I mean, and you were up against some pretty sizable releases that year, if I recall.
Yeah, I think I was the first actual OSR person to actually win an award for a product. I think.
I would not be surprised. Yeah,
I'm pretty
although
sure it was one of the early ones. Early ones, at least.
you were probably one of the early. I think that Swords and Wizardry won early on too, like
Maybe.
a gold or a silver, but that would require me to actually like research and go back and look at prior any winners, and
That's too much work.
that's way too much work.
Yeah.
And back then too, there was a lot less drama attached to anybody who entered. Now, you have to go through apparently like a checklist of whether or not you are politically correct before you can even be considered for a nomination on an any.
Oh yeah, you have to kiss the right ass. You have to vote for the right person.
You can't interview the wrong person, stuff like that. You gotta avoid stuff. Apparently,
be in the same county as the wrong person disqualifies you too. Apparently.
Oh, jeez, man. Listen, I think I'm in New York City. I'm probably just disqualified in general, but that's okay.
No, you're pretty safe. You're in the land of safeness over there.
Yeah, I'm in the land of safeness, which means that being a neutral ground stands out compared to the rest. So therefore, I think I'm still in the exclusionary grounds.
I think the quote was, "It's so unbelievable that it has to be fake," or something like that. I just thought that was funny. How I was on the what was it? Inappropriate Characters Pundits podcast. YouTube, and the guy was just like, Tankar is so neutral that it's just the way he phrased it was so
that was Grim.
Yeah, Grim. He's just Tankar is just so neutral that it's just so unbelievable.
No, Tenkar is so neutral, it's pathological.
Oh, it's pathological. Okay, I thought it was just
no. It's virtually pathological, and I thought that was.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not making fun of the guy or anything. I just thought it was funny how he thought it was just like unbelievable, and I was like, the guy can be neutral. Why not?
Right. And it doesn't mean I don't have personal opinions. I just believe that when it comes to the role-playing community that are here to talk role-playing games, They don't need to know or care or want to hear about my personal opinions about shit that doesn't have to do with gaming. If you
No,
want to hear my personal opinion about shit that doesn't have to do with gaming, come meet my local pub over lunch, and I'll be glad by the third beer to talk to you about pretty much anything. You can have my personal opinions freely. Or,
if I recall correctly, it only took one beer, but anyway.
Well, Vince, again, it depends on who I'm with. If I know you, it might just take. Yeah, can I get a beer? All right, let's go into it. If the beer is being poured, and I'm probably talking, but yeah, when
Yeah.
we're, but yeah, no, that was a great quote.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny how he said that. I mean, I like him, and it was just unbelievable. I was like, okay, cool.
Well, because it seems to be that the larger your soapbox, the more opinionated you're supposed to be, and
not so much opinionated, just they want you to take a side, is what it is.
right, because you're not taking a side. And I've been told this by both sides that by not taking a side, I am helping the other side. And you know what?
Oh yeah.
I've been told this by, again, the both sides of the spectrum. And my opinion is I don't give a fuck because I'm not looking to help either side. I'm looking to provide a welcoming community. And
that was just like in every election, whenever there's a third party, if you vote for the third party, it's like, you're helping whatever side is the other side.
yeah, it's like, not quite, but especially, and of course we got into that. That you can that whole. Have you read about the whole like vote trading deal that some people get into? Like, I live in New York State. My vote is practically worthless because certain states always vote one way. But I can trade my vote with somebody in another state, and then I'll vote for their candidate, and they'll vote for my candidate. What the hell is that? Yeah, believe me,
It's just way too beyond what I care about. So
it's another reason why I avoid politics, because it is really bizarre shit, man. The rabbit holes are deeper than the ones you have in gaming, and gaming has its own rabbit holes. So now, Vince, what current podcasts are you doing?
I do Roll for Initiative, which is kind of on a hiatus right now. We're working on almost 10 years for that show, and it's kind of, the three of us are kind of burnt out on it a little bit, so we're taking a break again, and we'll be back. We'll finish up with that, but I'm mostly focusing on the superhero stuff that I'm doing now. I like the classic Face Rip podcast, which we just dropped a show that just this past weekend. So, and of course my YouTube channel, which I love doing.
Oh, well, yeah, I've appeared on that with my cat's ass. I mean, with Ashley walking by.
I'm going to go back and rename the show Tankar and the Cat's Ass. So.
Yeah, there you go. Just one episode. All you got to do is just name one episode, Tankar and the Cat's Ass. You know what? If we ask her to pose, she'll probably never show up in the episode.
No, of course not. That's how cats are. You tell them to do something, they're like, fuck you. And then you're like, get away, cat.
I'm not doing this. Now, with the Face Rip, is that a live play, or is that what do they call it? Real?
No, it's an actual podcast. I record it via video on my computer here. We were doing it live, but then I was just like, what's the point of that? It just takes up all bandwidth, and I don't know. It makes. I just prefer doing it and recording it and just uploading it. So I found a guy, Keith, who is in the Marvel community on Facebook, that actually produces material. Like, there's still a whole group of fans out there that produce new material for Face Rip. It's of course unofficial, but they still produce these really good quality products every month. Marvel files, and they do source books and everything. And this guy Keith is part of that group. And if you're looking for that, it's the Marvel Unofficial Canon Group on Facebook. And there's probably like over 100-something people in there, and they produce and churn stuff out constantly. And anyway, I found him, and he joined me on the show as my new co-host there.
Nice. Well, now Face Rip, for those who don't know, that is the TSR era Marvel superheroes cloned via the OGL, I guess. Is it
No,
right?
no, no, no. We just called it the Classic Phase Rip Podcast. I always call it the Face Rip Podcast because I've
Well,
always
but
learned to call it Face
but
Rip.
phase rip
Yeah,
is
Phase Rip.
is
Yeah.
the classic Marvel TSR game with the serial numbers taken off, correct?
Oh, yeah, there is a clone called Phase Rip. Yeah, by itself with a picture of uh, uh, what the heck is it? A girl superhero on the front. Yeah, that's a clone
Okay.
that someone
Oh,
stripped
okay.
everything off of. But yeah, we actually are basically following the book. So, the box set that the TSR produced in the 80s and 90s and, the little separate books. We're a podcast based on Marvel's TSR superheroes.
Okay. No, I just like I recognized, it's funny because my friends in my old gaming group, they had the Marvel superheroes game from TSR,
Yeah.
and of course they wanted to play it. Nobody wanted to run it. They wanted me to run it, but I didn't have the money to buy a copy, and I could borrow a copy, but not overnight because that would mean you were borrowing it for most of the week until they could see it the next week, and
Yeah, yeah.
pain in
Uh-huh.
the ass. So they never
Yeah.
got to play it.
Aw.
So that was on them. Sorry.
Yeah, I run actually, my gaming group actually plays Marvel superheroes right now, and we've been doing it for let's see, November was a year, so we're over a year now, and it's a villains campaign. So
Oh, that's cool. That's one hell of a switch.
yeah, you can find that on iTunes by Marvel's X Universe is what it's called, and it's a group of my gaming group has basically started. They started as normal people that got infected and became inhumans and blah blah blah, and now they're on a roll. Where they had a whole alternate what if reality arc that they went over to another world and they became superheroes and they had to hide the fact that they were still villains, and it was kind of fun. So
Who's running it? You are?
I'm running it. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yep. Yep.
So that's pretty much like a live play podcast.
That's an actual play. Yeah, that I put up is
Or
actual
actual play. Why am I saying live play? I don't.
because you're old. I have no idea.
Yes, I don't know listen, Al Gore invented the internet. He told me so.
At least you didn't say on the iTunes. So
I listened to it on the iTunes.
are you still one of those people that like when you go to the web, go to www?
Oh no! I actually, and there are a handful of times when I try to find things, and this website's like, well, we got to put the www in there for you because you need that www. No, you don't fucking need it anymore.
There actually are some websites that you technically have to put the www in front of, and I'm not sure it's because of redirection stuff, but there are some. Very little though.
Okay.
Yeah, I do that on my YouTube channel, and as well as I've been starting the Megs DC Heroes Learn the System, I call it. As
Oh,
I'm
that's
going
cool.
through that, I'm like up to like 6 or 7 episodes for that, and that's fun. I love that system too. And I used to play the hell out of that back in the mid '90s, probably late '80s, with my original gaming group after Joe disappeared into the mist and went away to the D&D gods, or what we used to say.
That was the Mayfair Games
Yeah,
edition, right?
yeah, Mayfair DC Heroes, which I think probably putting the two together is probably the better of the two systems for superheroes, Marvel versus DC. I'm always a DC fan over Marvel. It's just my preference. I grew up
Yeah.
on DC.
Green Lantern was my first comic book and the only one for years until I could scrounge up more money.
When I was a kid, my father, because everybody they're from Long Island back in those days, Long Island,
I lived on Long Island.
Long Island, and everybody, of course, from the '80s came from a broken home. I was included in the broken home situation because my parents divorced when I was a younger age. So whenever I saw my father, it was always like that special treat. I don't know if you were in that situation, but
No, I wasn't in that situation, which meant that if I wanted to buy comic books, I had to either save my allowance or steal change from my mother's pocketbook.
well, whenever I did, wow, Tanker stealing at a young age. Look at that.
Yeah, well,
The man who became a cop was stealing at a young age. Okay.
well, because you got to know the mindset, right? Now, believe me, you start with change, and then you get greedy, and you go for that single dollar, and then all of a sudden, somebody realizes I'm missing a dollar bill, and man, I just went too far, too fast, and then I never did it again because there ain't nothing like getting caught with that shit.
No, yeah. But whenever I did see my father, he would always like, have a little comic book here or there. The very, very first one he got me was a Batman comic back in like 87, 86, around there. And then he
Okay.
brought me like a Punisher and everything like that. And I got into Punisher and Spider-Man and basically whatever he liked, he gave to me. So he probably
Right.
read it and then gave it to me, knowing him, but whatever. That's how I got my first couple of comics. So,
No,
and I love DC over Marvel any day. So,
yeah, Green Lantern was the one that stuck out to me, and I came into comics just after the DC explosion when they went from
wow.
35 cents to 50, and then 3 months later they went down to 40. So I came in when they were editing 25-page comic books down to 19 to 21 pages, and a lot of the stories initially made no fucking sense because you were missing whole pages as they
Yeah, I
tried
remember
to.
comics being like 25 cents. Wow. Yeah.
Well, I remember going back and buying comic books afterwards. My first time finding a comic book store was with one of my friends, Paul, back when his parents got divorced, and then his mother moved out to Belrose, right on the border of Queens and Nassau. And I remember staying with him a couple of times, and we were given like $5 a piece from his mother to go out and buy comic books and just stay quiet the whole time. So you'd go to the comic book store and you'd find like the bargain bin, and I go, oh my god, look, an old comic book. It's 20 cents on the cover. Look, it's ISIS, and you'd buy like fucking ISIS because it was cheap as opposed to being good. So
Yeah. Now, if you find a 20-cent comic, you're paying like hundreds of dollars for it.
right, but if you find like I don't know, like a dollar or $2 comic from the day of I don't know, my college days, and they're fucking worthless because there was so much speculation going on. Yes, the Killing Joke in 7 different printings.
Yeah. Oh, what are you gonna do? I know comics did wind up getting my ass. I got my ass whooped because of comics back then too. Because funny story with my friend and I used to walk everywhere because we were kids and didn't have a car.
Right, and,
And
did you walk with the comic book right in front of your fucking face
yeah, we
as you
did.
walked? Yeah, I
Of
did
course.
that with my Dragon magazines.
Yeah. Well, who didn't? Yeah, I remember Dragon magazine. We run to this
The
little
Barnes and Noble.
newsstand. It was a Korean newsstand.
They
Right on
had
the
Dragon magazine in a newsstand by you?
yeah. Uh-huh.
Holy shit!
They
I had to go.
actually had. I used to go there. It was like right. You're familiar with Nassau County a little bit, or
Yeah, a little bit.
Williston Park area? I don't know if you're familiar with that area at all.
Nah, no.
Well, there was a little newsstand there at the corner by my house. It was probably a couple blocks, and me and my buddy would run there like every other day to see if they had new D&D stuff and new like wrestling magazines and stuff like that. The dude always had good stuff there. He had weird stuff too, but he always had Dragon,
Yeah.
always had Dungeon there.
See,
So
that's awesome. I would walk over to B. Dalton's. It was about 10, 15-minute walk from my house, and I remember issue 66 of the Dragon was the first one I saw, and I was like, and I fell in love, and I read it the whole way home, including crossing I think Queens Boulevard with Boulevard of Death, with like its 14 fucking lanes. I think I never put it down, man. I don't know how I could walk like that back then, but I did.
no, yeah, it's kind of a little bit hard to do now, but yeah, we did do
Yeah.
it. So
A lot. There's more people on the streets, and many more cars on the road to run you down as you get to that corner. That look.
do you know back then in the 80s I was podcasting before podcasting was a podcast thing?
No, dude, do tell.
Okay, so when I was in middle school and high school, I was part of the AV Geek Squad, of course, because I like TV and radio and stuff like that. And we actually had a radio station type thing in our school. So a buddy of mine and I used to walk home, and we had a little tape recorder, and we used to do our own show. And then the guy who ran the studio caught wind of it one day, so he let us actually do our own show there. And we, the show was so stupid too. We recorded the show. It was called The Kent Clark Show. It was starring Clark Kent, but his name was Kent Clark. and he was trying to hide from Lois Lane, and we would have like all these like fake callers calling with all these different voices. Of course, now they'd probably be considered racist because they are all those type of voices. But we'd record it and we would distribute to like massive amount of people in the school. Like everyone would get a copy of the tape that wanted it. So we were kind of podcasting before it was podcasting. I guess it was just, I don't know, tape trading back then. So
That is awesome. And you know what? I do remember people trading cassette tapes back then.
yeah,
And
that's what we had.
yeah, you'd have back then too. A lot of it was, and just before the internet, so it was somebody like recording a song or two off the radio, and
Yeah.
then they'd step in and give and that was Kenny Rogers singing "The
No.
Gambler." I love "The Gambler." It's a great. It's like,
Oh yeah, they
yeah,
tried to DJ their own tapes. That's right.
yeah. I actually, I did that in my like 14, 15 when I got, well, it wasn't a boom box, but it was a radio with a recorder and one single large speaker. And
You probably heard me on the radio at WDRD. Yeah, WDRE, which turned into LIR at this point.
yes, DRE and LIR were one of my. It was weak. I
Yeah.
I didn't get great reception at my house unless I was on the second floor.
Yeah, yeah. I worked with them as a DJ, as DJ Vinsanity on Sunday nights from 11 to like 4 a.m. when I got out of high school.
Oh man.
WDRD 97.2. I'm DJ Vinsanity. Here's another tune coming for you. Yeah,
Did you see the retrospective on LAR?
No, they had one. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they have a retrospective on LAR. It's on Netflix or Amazon.
Oh,
I'll have to look it up and send you a link to it. It was a lot of fun listening to the bands and the old DJs and all that stuff, and talking about the old location.
The best alternative rock on radio today.
It was, man. That was.
Oh yeah, WDRE. It was the thing to be back then. So
Yeah, that was
apparently not from 11 to 4 a.m. But
well, you know what? You got to start somewhere, right?
I gave that up when I realized there was like no money in that, and I wasn't going to blow somebody to get into a position of power. So,
well, there's a lot of things that like I enjoyed retail when I was doing retail. I did it for 8.5 years. I enjoyed it, but when I interviewed for a management position and the salary they offered me was $1,000 less than I was making with minimal overtime doing sales and electronics, I turned it down, and my store manager flipped at me, and I explained it to him. He was like, "Well, you're not doing it for the money. You're doing it for the opportunities later." I go, "No, because I don't have the money now. I can't pay my bills now, which means I won't have any opportunities later.
I won't be able to come to work later." So,
in my case, I wound up becoming a cop. Go figure that one out.
Is this pre-mustache days or?
Oh no! This is mustache days. Oh, all right. Here, I don't think I've ever mentioned this either on the blog or on any of the podcasts. But back then,
we have an exclusive with Eric Tankar. His mustache days.
In my mustache days, with my longer hair, not long. All my friends had long hair in my D&D group, except for one. But my hair would go down to about my shoulders, kind of, and I would wear. I would wear sterling silver jewelry. And one with the stone pendant, one with cross, and I think one with a dragon. They were all different length chains, and they were thick and heavy. And I was working Stearns department store out in Flushing, long sleeve shirt, tie. Although this is like, mind you, this is the late '80s, early '90s. So I was even doing like those those knit ties that were popular back then. Yeah. But I would wear my jewelry over my shirt, but underneath my tie.
Oh, really? Classy.
And dude, I'm a D&D geek, you think this is cool. Probably wasn't. There's a picture around somewhere in the house, one of the photo albums of me dressed like that, and I should really put up on a blog one time for a fucking laugh.
No, when I was growing up, I was dressed like, I was raised in a Catholic family, so there was no D&D stuff allowed or like dressing with heavy metal stuff. No, not with a Catholic family.
Oh, dude, I was raised in a Catholic family too. My mother's aunt was I don't believe in Vatican II nun, which means black habit with the coif and no hair showing and
I
total
still remember when I started really getting into D&D, when I started buying my own books. I was still living at home because I was still under 18, and
right.
we were babysitting. My parents were babysitting a stupid dog for a friend, and of course, the responsibility. It'd be a great responsibility for you.
No, it's not.
Walk
I don't
the
like picking up
dog.
shit.
Yeah, so it was me picking up shit is right what it was. But I remember the one time it was like I was supposed to walk the dog at 6:15, and I'm sitting in my bedroom, and I just got the Unearthed Arcana Orange Spine book.
Oh,
Just got it. Like
evil.
I purchased it myself. I'm in there, and my mom's like, "What are you doing? It's 6:20. You're supposed to walk the fucking dog." Because Long Island accent, of
Long
course.
Island accent, and yes.
It's because you're fucking at that Dungeons and Demons book.
Oh,
Yes, Tankar, my New York accent comes out when I talk to you. So
that's listen, as well it should, man. The
no,
ties that bind.
no, I work long and hard to get rid of the New York accent. That's why I don't sound like I'm from New York anymore. So
Oh,
you can hear it sometimes, but most people here in Texas are like, "Oh, you're from like the Midwest, right?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, definitely Midwest."
you've
They hate New
you've
Yorkers.
neutered your accent.
Well, they hate New
Ah,
Yorkers here, so I'm not going to tell them I'm from New York.
yeah, well, see, if I moved to Texas, there's no way I could lose it. They'd be like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they'd probably listen to you and go, "You sound like Bernie Sanders. Go away."
yeah. You sound like Bernie Sanders from Brooklyn. It's like, yeah.
When we were doing the Old School Blues podcast, I remember someone said to me, "Who's that podcast you're doing with that sounds like Bernie Sanders?" I was just like, "That's Eric."
Of all the people I could sound like, Bernie Sanders.
Well, he's a little old Jewish man from Brooklyn, so
There you go. And I'm
a little old man from the area too. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Queens, New York. But no, my mother's aunt, like I said, Vatican II was too radical for her. So she didn't accept the no Latin masses. My parents were staying in the Poconos. I was 18, and Norma came to watch my grandmother for 3 weeks because grandma was going through senility, Alzheimer's stuff.
dementia.
And yeah, and I went downstairs to sleep in the one room that had AC, and my mother's aunt Norma, sister Camilla, went through my room, I guess looking for drugs. Uh, couldn't find drugs, but found magical books about spells and stuff, and called my parents at 7:30 the next morning. To say waking them up, they weren't happy. And then I get a phone call, and my mother was like, "Listen, she's there for another 2 weeks. Just do us a favor. You have like other games you can play, right? Like that science fiction stuff." I'm like, "Yeah." When your friends come over, just play the science fiction stuff. Put this other stuff away, and when she leaves, play whatever you want because I know it keeps you and your friends out of trouble.
The Satanic Panic area. I
Yes.
remember that conversation with my mother, and I'm downstairs, and she just heard me have a conversation with my one of my other DMs because we were talking about going to hell and taking the soul stone of a demon so we can control him, and she's just like, "I need to talk to you." And I'm like, "Yeah," and she's just like, I know Dungeons and Dragons is a very popular game right now, but there's a lot of bad stuff going on out there, and I just want to know. Our priest wants me to talk to you because we have a priest in our family, Father Steve.
Okay.
And he said that apparently, she was trying to get all into the game. When you get to level 7 is when you normally get really attached to your character. And then when your character dies, you feel like it's a part of you dying. And I just want to know how you feel about that. I'm like, Mom, I play so many games and have so many characters that I don't really give a shit if a character dies at this point.
If I did, I'd have committed suicide already. The fact that I haven't, you should be okay.
And she just looked at me and she went, "All right." She goes, "Well, why were you talking to him about the demon thing with the stone and the souls? You don't want to go to hell, right? Are you trying to go to hell? Is that what you're doing with that friend of yours?" I was just like, no. So I sat down and I actually explained to her what we were doing. And she's like, "You do this all in your mind?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a role-playing game. That's how we play it out. We're not actually running and stealing souls or anything. It's just a game." And she went, Oh, and from then I never got shit after that. Once I explained it.
That's good. Like my mother, she bought me my gaming books after I was introduced by my friend Kenny, and she embraced it. She's like, to the point where she's like, "Yeah, your friends can come over here. So sit you at the dining room table. She'd make lunch for them, lemonade, because she figured it was keeping us out of trouble. Here we are in Queens, one of the outer boroughs of New York City, at a time when crime was rampant in New York, and
Yeah.
she was like, "I know where you all are." She goes, "You're having fun. It's wholesome fun." I mean, I think that we out of the 6 dining room chairs, I think we broke 3 of them just by and I wasn't as heavy set now then as I am now, but one of my friends was pretty heavy set, and he would rock his ass as he got excited, and
Busted a
chair
chair.
busted 3 chairs,
Damn.
3 chairs over the course of 2 years. We wound up getting a whole new dining room set
Aw.
after that, but it was worth it. Even my mother said it was worth it.
Well, that's what like my wife says about now about me gaming. She's like, you know what? She doesn't game at all, and she doesn't care if I game or not. And you've met
All right.
her
Yes.
plenty of times, and she just kind of goes, "Oh, okay, gaming." She's like, you know what? It's better than you going to titty bars and beating me like most men do.
Oh, jeez.
I'm just like, thanks. I don't know how to respond to that one.
If my choice is you going to titty bars and beating me drunkenly when you return, or you playing RPGs, I'll take the RPGs. That's like there's no comparison. It isn't like the lesser of two evils is RPGs, or maybe it is the lesser of the evils. I don't
I
know.
think it is the lesser of two evils in some senses. So, but no, but I mean, she does her thing, I do my thing, and we respect each other for that. And, we have a good marriage, over 10 years now, so it's fun.
Yeah, no. Rachel and I just hit 7 this past November, and the fact that she not only games at conventions but enjoys gaming. It's like, yeah, I'm going to be playing in this game. Bye. you work the table for the frogs. I got more important things to do.
Yeah, my wife is
I
not.
love, but she doesn't game away from convention. She does, that's just her spot that she feels comfortable doing it.
Yeah, everybody has it. And I've asked her if she wants the game, and my wife, and she's just like, no, no interest, no care. You do your thing. Don't worry about it. She go when we go to North Texas, even though we don't live that far away, we
Mhm.
go just to go to the hotel so she can go in the pool. That's pretty much the only reason why we go.
Well,
And she gets to see Rachel too. So
right, no, and that's Rachel enjoys the gaming aspect, but my God, she enjoys going to all these locations because what you've been to Gary Con, so Rachel did a spa day at Gary Con.
okay.
And then Madison is where Game Hole is, and she enjoys Madison because the hotel shuttle gives her like a 3-mile drop off and pickup. So she's done yoga out there and gone shopping, and she does more than gaming.
Well,
She
my wife
gets to
can't
explore.
she's like, Gary Con, in the middle of what, Lake Geneva? What am
Yes.
I going to do there? She says. I'm like, I don't know. Go see, go get your nails done or something. She's like, I can do that at home. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't game, so I can't go anywhere.
Yeah, Rachel's like, "Oh my God." When we first started talking about like I was gonna be going, she's like, "Do you know they have a spa, a world-class spa?" I'm like, "I don't give a shit. I won't." I'm a guy. I don't really care. She goes, "Well, I do care, and I know where I'm gonna be." I'm like,
Yeah.
"God bless."
Mm.
Oh, that's good, man. And congratulations on 10 years.
Thank you.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Wow. It's funny, man. I joke with people that I do these sit downs, these chats with people. Yeah, the aim is get something that's about 20 to 30 minutes long because my average podcast is about 12 to 15 minutes. And the reality is like every episode gets like longer and longer.
Yeah.
And we've hit 45, Vince.
Well, yeah, because we're conversing. That's why.
Oh, that's the whole thing. That's why like I've known you for years. I know that we have a very good
Repertoire.
repertoire, chemistry between us when we do this stuff, and I really I've been enjoying the chance to talk to people in our community and talk about stuff that they want to talk about, not coming on here with, I've got a list of 50 questions that we got to get through, so chop chop. I
Oh, I
I
never do that. I hate that.
I hate that too.
That's how I
But
always do all my podcasts. I try to do it conversation wise. And everyone's like, "Well, aren't you? You're not going to script? Fuck script." I've heard a couple podcasts that are scripted and it's so awful, and I can't believe they actually won like awards for it too. But
oh, stop picking on Ken and Robin. You scripted talk about some stuff.
yeah, let's fake it. Ken and Robin fake stuff. That's what it should be called.
It's like, oh my god, what a shock!
Yeah, no,
There's no shock involved in that one.
there's no shock because you know ahead of time, pal.
Yes, it's like,
I think
that's why.
someone
Go ahead.
complained on the my YouTube about the Face Rip podcast how we were taking too long because we were conversing too much, and I'm like, I'm sorry, that's how I handle my podcast. We're not a scripted show, and we'll remember to do that and take into advisement to keep it a little more tighter next time. But I
Right.
like to have a casual conversation. That's how I've done all the interviews I've ever done on Save or Die or Roll for Initiative. I just have a couple general questions and I just let the person converse. Like when I talk to basically, I don't know if you heard that episode I did with Buzz Dixon, the the cartoon writer.
No.
Yeah, I actually got to speak to the legendary Buzz Dixon, and I was kind of fanboying off on him. But it was still kind of he just went on and on. I let him talk and let him talk because he was the guy who wrote every cartoon I watched in the '80s. So it's good to
That's awesome.
yeah, just to hear that guy's voice and hear his perspective and everything, and how the wild parties that he attended at the Gygax Mansion in California. So
Oh, I've heard about those parties, but from people that were actually like on the inside, and it's just like,
yeah,
yeah, I'm surprised Gary didn't die earlier. To tell you the truth, I hate to say it like that, but he was into some wild stuff for a while.
yeah. He told us some good stories off the air too. So
Yeah, there you go.
yeah,
Well, yeah, that's I guess my take on this is I'd rather do a hex crawl than be on rails. Let it
yeah,
go where it's gonna go, and
yep, I agree.
so. All right. Well, on that note, I'm sure we keep this going for another hour, but then I'd have to find a way to split this in at least two, and I
And
can't.
you'll get the Eric. Your show was too long.
Yeah, you're not focused. I've gotten that. Some of your interviews aren't very focused. I go, that's why I'm no longer calling them interviews. I'm probably going to call them like fireside chats, as was suggested by Ian McCarthy. It's like, oh, but shouldn't they be like focused? Yeah, they're focused on the person that I'm talking with.
Hey, I got a good idea. Why don't you run the podcast and I'll listen to you?
Oh, there we go.
And that usually shuts most people up. But now with Anchor these days, I mean, anybody with a phone and a heartbeat can make a podcast now. Which, whatever.
You
If you've
know,
heard some of the podcasts out there, it's just awful.
it's been likened. I've been told, and I agree with this. I think it was Joe the lawyer mentioned this, that he sees what Anchor is doing now is what Blogger for podcasting is what Blogger did for blogging, and you're going to get a lot of people jumping in, and then it's going to kind of self-select.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Blogger. Anchor is doing what podcasting. It took us back 10 years in podcasting.
Yes.
When podcasting started, 2006 and 7 started becoming more of a thing. There was like a shit ton of awful shows out there where you heard like people on the left side and on the right side of your headphones. You had to have both headphones in to listen to certain podcasts.
Oh God.
And then you'd have the muffled ones. It sounds like somebody was talking through a pillow. Then you'd have the one with the tape recorder on the table and everybody talking. It was just awful podcasts back then. And, slowly, like you said, they got weeded out and we got to the time now that we were getting quality podcast. And then Anchor comes along and just pretty much shit all over everything. And now we're back to 2006 again.
Well, again, it puts more options out there, and
there are some really good quality things out there. I'm going to say that, but then there's all these people that don't do great podcasts, and you can tell that they just don't give a shit. And they're like, "Hey, I can podcast now because of Anchor, yay!"
Well,
And
you
it
know,
kind of
the
annoys
chaff,
me. You know?
the chaff will slowly get sorted out, and you'll be left with the kernels. And listen, just like with blogs, and it took a long time for the blog situation to settle. Now, I think it could probably use a blog 2.0 era. We've lost a lot of them, but I think that the same thing is happening with Anchor.
Yeah, I've been blogging myself, so I got my thing I'm writing for right now. So
Oh, nice.
you know what I'm writing for. Don't be
Yes.
don't
Oh,
play dumb.
well, but I'm not. But I wasn't calling that a blog. So,
I guess technically it's not a blog; it's a news. No, it's a comic book geek site, Bleeding Fool. So
right.
which is a parody of Bleeding Cool, I guess. Apparently,
I guess it's what
Just-
it is.
yeah. I mean, it's the same logo, which is kind of modified. So it's satire stuff like that.
Satire is fun.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's some people.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we shall wrap up the show at this point. Never a good spot to wrap it up with me and Vince, because we will keep going. We don't need an excuse, but we're gonna wrap it up.
Mazes in Peril second edition, which I'm working on right now. Well, actually, it is complete as far as I'm concerned. It's now in the phase of artwork, layout, editing, things like that, and should, according to Alan of Gallant Knight Games, be around, I think, the second part of the first quarter of 2019. I don't know. I think he said something like that, but I don't want to quote it. So
Kickstart, I'm assuming, right?
I think that was his plan, because he's like, he wants to do a box set and he wants to do dice and cards and all this wonderful jazzy stuff that Alan does with everything he does. So
Okay, well, that sounds cool.
yeah,
Exciting, man. It's a great system. I have both editions, so I'm looking forward to seeing. The both editions that are out now.
Well, you can't get the original one anymore, but you can get the deluxe edition.
Okay. Well, I still have the original one on my hard drive.
Yes.
So there.
I know, Mister. I need to get home and get it on my Nexus 7 so I could see what's wrong with this today. I still remember that post that you had up.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, I remember that. I need to get home to check it on my Nexus 7. Back when you had a Nexus 7 or whatever the hell that was.
The fucking tablet from Asus.
Yeah.
I still remember the day it was supposed to get delivered. Somehow UPS fucked up, or they didn't deliver. I wound up driving out to Brooklyn to pick it up.
Ugh.
It tells you right there and then, man. I was doomed for a while, and if you were doomed for a while for me, I guess. God help us.
Well, if you like YouTube, also check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/c/theevildm. That's my advice channel for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, Marvel Phase Rip, and DC Heroes. Go over there. That's my plug.
No, that's the point to it, dude. You got to get the plugs in.
Yes, and look forward to Mazes in Peril second edition. This is the Tankar Podcast, and we'll see you later. Bye.
That's funny, though. Thank you, everybody, for listening. God bless. Roll your dice well. And Vince won't be talking to you tomorrow unless you catch him somewhere besides this podcast. But I'll talk with you all tomorrow. Thank you, folks.
Okay.
We're good? All right.
Yeah.
Do I have to do a countdown at the end? Joking.
No.